It's now T-minus 12 hours until all hell breaks loose, and Helldivers, when Into the Unjust, is unleashed onto the player base. This time, it's the Helldivers taking the fight to the doorstep of the Terminids, diving deep underground and taking on some of the biggest and baddest bugs the game has seen. We've got a lot to cover in this one, including our victory in that unwinnable major order, some more CEO sightings, and a huge amount of intel concerning the new cave missions. In case you're new here, please consider hitting subscribe and ringing the notifications bell because it's now time to get primed and ready for all the latest in Helldivers. We've got to start off today with the Helldivers' stunning comeback with this past major order. 8.5 billion kills spread across all three factions was a very tall order, and with under 24 hours to go, your dedication to the cause pushed us over the finish line to victory. In fact, we finished up the 6 billion Terminid kills so damn fast, Arrowhead had to scramble to give us a very short major order to tide us over until Tuesday when the new content drop happens. Thanks to your combined efforts, the maximum security cities of New Hope, New Aspiration, and New Yearning still stand. And there's to be a new national holiday to commemorate our triumph dubbed the Day of Unanimous Retribution. But now that the training dives are over and the Team Green recruits have seen the thrill and horrors of battle, it's time to get down to business. Operation Righteous Reclamation is the current task at hand, as it's no longer safe to just defend our cities. Helldivers everywhere are being mobilized and sent into the very heart of the gloom thanks to new polymer coatings on our Super Destroyer hulls. We've been ordered to establish a forward operating base on the very edge of the unknown, giving us a jump point into the gloom, with the options of either 𝗣𝗶𝘆𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗄, which you can't even get to, Hellmire, and 𝗤𝗋 currently showing up on the galactic map. As of right around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this afternoon, Helldivers was seeing player counts about to hit 259,000 combined divers, with 87% of you diving bugs, and 60% of those hitting bugs actually diving Hellmire, which is currently showing 31% completed. Now, for those of you seeing Hellmire for the very first time, this is not the way this planet used to look. For that blast from the past moment, check out your screens. Now that is what Hellmire used to be before the Gloom strain took over there. Fire NATOs just coming down and going everywhere, trapping players and bugs alike and quickly burning both alive. The craziest times were when you would get those fire NATO effects crisscrossing over extraction. Yeah, remember that? Either making it extremely hazardous to interact with the extraction terminal or to try to make your way into the back of the shuttle. We used to have to use tricks like tossing down smoke nades or popping stems along with the experimental infusion booster just to make it out of Hellmire alive. So what you've got right now on Hellmire is paradise compared to what it used to be. And if you were there, you know. In fact, that's a great question for chat. If you were there back in the day on Hellmire 1.0, drop a comment about your most intense memory from the Mordor of Helldivers, and I'm really looking forward to reading those responses. Now, I know we've got a lot of new subscribers hitting the channel, and by the way, thank you for hitting subscribe as we're quickly closing down on 330,000 subs. And one of the things I do here on the channel is I not only cover the news, but I also cover the topics, both positive and when they do pop up, the not so positive. Which brings me to a message that recently popped up in the official Helldivers Discord that started off with a member post. It says, "You know what I really think? Streams and content creators have optimized and made so much content for the game that now they focus on crazy OP weapons only. Everything else is bad. This led to like limp reactions to every new weapons, etc. Like I know Ragdoll is crazy, but Fog is not that bad. Like this game was never made to be played for 4,000 hours. What's your take on this?" This comment was then seen and apparently responded to by Sham Jorjani, the CEO of Arrowhead. Here's his response. It says, "This is a challenge for all games. They represent the playstyle of a minority, but set standards for many as they have a platform to broadcast and many who look. We balance things out internally by looking at a lot of data, metrics, and qualitative data like said streamers. The vast majority silently play the game. They don't post here or on Reddit, and when we do good, we see this in the stats. And when we don't, we also see it. Sometimes it overlaps with what influencers or people say in social media. Often it does not. So we use different tools to calibrate our compass. Doesn't mean we always get it right. We screw up all the time. But I think we keep learning and improving, as proven by the recent appreciation, players' numbers, and sales. So first off, and for my viewers out there, just indulge me for 30 seconds. I use all sorts of crazy setups when I play this game. Sometimes it's crazy OP weapons, other times it's not. And I've already discussed the ODST weapons in previous videos, so I'm not going to bring up those again. And if you want to see what I said about them and when, just check my previous Helldivers uploads. Now personally, I don't think that I represent the playstyle of a minority, and I'm also not an influencer. I work a full-time job outside of YouTube, and I post about Helldivers in my free time because I want to see the game continue to thrive and grow, and that can't be done through just looking at spreadsheets or living in an echo chamber of having nothing but compliments tossed in your general direction. Now, as a content creator, I do talk about the topics, both positive and negative. I make suggestions, I take feedback, and what I do out of sheer love for this game and the gaming community. All right, sorry if that took over 30 seconds, but that's all I really have to say about this matter, at least for now. Because it's time to take a deep dive into tomorrow's Into the Unjust new content drop, and more specifically, one of the two main topics I've seen tossed around, the new cave missions. And also for the record, the other hot topic are the new enemy types, including the Burrower strain, the Bile Dragons, and the still mysterious but theorized return of the Hive Lords from Helldivers 1. This is going to be the first time in Helldivers 2 that we're being tasked with going underground and taking on the bugs on their home turf. And I put together a lot of tips and tricks here to help get you through this new biome and mission type, along with a couple of game changer mechanics nobody has discussed. Right out of the gate are the bug worlds themselves. Now these are deep inside the gloom, and they've been terraformed and twisted through time by the hyper-accelerated bug growth that occurs there, much like we've seen on a previous super colony planet, Meridia. Remember that one? Yeah, right before we turned it into a wormhole. Now, with all the gloom and spore cloud creations, along with the terrain and atmosphere itself, divers are going to want to pay special attention to the environmental effects, which could include tremors, which can stun players and enemies alike, acid storms, which temporarily reduce armor effectiveness for both us and the Terminids, and also intense heat, which increases stamina drain and speeds up heat buildup in weapons. Intense heat is an effect that can really catch divers unaware, and considering that we're about to be taking on bugs, which are melee focused and very fast, if we burn through our stamina, we could get caught moving slowly and turned into a quick snack. Now, if you find yourself in that scenario, remember, new recruits, you can pop a stem and replenish your stam back to full. Also, if you plan on packing laser weapons, and we do run into the intense heat modifier, those weapons will not only build up heat faster, causing them to overheat, but also, when you let off the trigger, those laser weapons will also take longer to cool down. Next, let's take a quick look at the intel from Helldivers HQ, aka the trailer footage. And so far, we haven't seen any bugs in the cave missions bigger than an alpha commander. Now expect to see scavengers, pouncers, hunters, warriors, and of course alphas, with a good bet that there will also be hive guards, and of course there could be bile versions of those bugs thrown in as well. Now, at least from the footage, there's no sign of stalkers, bile spewers, or the big elites like chargers, impalers, and bile titans, but I did want to say that this is not a certainty, just that we haven't seen them in the actual footage. Now, if the footage is accurate, this means that light and medium armor pen weapons will be perfect for these mission types, and I'm going to give you a more comprehensive weapons breakdown in just a moment as well. What about the caves themselves? Well, besides the obvious point that they are very tight quarters and cramped, I found this very brief clip here that shows what looks like human supply areas scattered around in the caves, with the standard assortment of crates and barrels, indicating there might be certain points of interest where we can not only loot samples, but also much needed resupplies for ammo, stems, and grenades. There also seems to be a ton of bug holes, so bring along something capable of closing those or risk being overrun by spawning Terminids. A grenade pistol, nades, certain primaries, and strat weapons can all be used to close them in short order. Our final point to destroy, assuming we can reach it, is the Spore Lung. And for that, the devs have already told us that we're going to need to follow the glowing tendrils along the ceiling of the caves to the lung itself, which will require a lot of explosives to destroy. Nuking these spore lungs are of vital strategic importance, as this is what the bugs are using to produce so much of the spore cloud itself, which greatly impairs our ability to see the planet's surface and general visibility while planetside. We've also heard that certain areas of the caves are extremely dark, so much so that it would be a solid choice by us Helldivers to equip and use weapons with flashlights. And judging from the footage, you don't want to mess things up and dive into a cave thinking you have a weapon with a flashlight only to find out it does not. Well, luckily, we've done all the testing for you. And if you want to take a screenshot now, here's every primary and secondary currently in the game that either has a flashlight as standard equipment or can have one equipped through customization options. Also, the caves themselves look very tight with tons of choke points. And you can bet that there will be times when we get back-raged and sandwiched inside a chamber with bugs coming from all sides. And in a case like that, you would do well to have a weapon that can stagger enemies in place, halting their advance on your position. Now, outside of using stun weapons, like the Pacifier and the Pummeler and also stun nades, the Liberator Concussive, Deadeye, Punisher, Slugger, Cookout, M90A, Crossbow, Eruptor, definitely be careful with that one inside the caves, 𝗛𝗲𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗄𝗏, and jar5 Dominator all possess high levels of stagger force, capable of keeping enemies at distance, and in the case of the Terminids, not up in your face and piercing you and your squad mates with their devastating melee attacks. We don't yet know how long the segments are between encounters where we can reach a part of a cave path that does not have a roof over it, and then we can call down much needed supplies and stratagems, so it may be a good idea to equip and use weapons that do not require ammo. The Sickle, the Dickle, 𝗛𝗲𝗹𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗄𝗏, and Scythe, if managed properly, do not require ammo or the exchanging of heat sinks. Now, since we have a cave over our heads, Eagles and Orbitals will be rendered useless. Sentries and Mines too, making it essential for a squad to be balanced, bringing along everything that we may need. Now, I'll show you a potential squad makeup in just a moment, but items like the Laser Guard Dog, Quasar Cannon, if we start to see that heavier targets are spawning, and the Laser Cannon are all good pieces of equipment and all do not require ammo. I especially like the Laser Guard Dog versus the bugs for its range, ability to set targets on fire, and the fact that it can see and illuminate dark areas even when we as divers cannot. For a possible squad loadout, assuming that the trailer intel is accurate and we're only seeing up to and including alpha commanders, your squad might look something like this. For player 1 and 2, they could have the 𝗛𝗲𝗹𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗄𝗏 Blitzer, Senator Pistols, Gas Nades, and Laser Guard Dog as both of their loadouts, with both of these guys leading the party through the caves. Players 3 and 4 could either use the Scythe or the Sickle, Grenade Pistols, primarily for bug hole clearing, Supply Pack for one, and the other carries in the Hellbomb Backpack. Again, Gas Nades are S tier versus the Terminids, and for the player using the Sickle, a sidearm with a flashlight would be a solid choice. Overall, with this setup, you've got Stagger Force, you've got medium armor pen with those blitzers, lasers for pointing out and cooking targets, gas nades for crowd control, and enough firepower to stop the bugs we saw in the trailer without getting out of control and therefore overly dangerous. However, if we start to see heavier bug variants like chargers and so on, something like the recoilless will need to be swapped into the loadouts. The key here is to bring enough firepower, versatility, and supplies that we can stop and defeat whatever we are encountering without getting reckless, which brings us to the game changer, and it's a mechanic I haven't seen discussed. Now, we already know that the cave ceilings prevent us from using our super destroyers for things like Eagles, Orbitals, stratagem call-ins, and of course resupplies. But has anyone thought about it also preventing us from calling in reinforcements, such as when a squad mate is killed in action? We've yet to see the exact mechanics involved, such as Do we have like certain checkpoints where divers can respawn back in? Or once we are in the caves, will this function much like we see when we encounter an ion storm, preventing us from reinforcing until we reach one of these checkpoints, which in this case is an area where there is no ceilings over our heads? Also, what happens if the entire squad wipes? How will they be called back in? Since this is an objective on a greater planetary map, it looks like our ships will fire us back down planetside outside the caves, and then we're going to have to make our way back into the labyrinth of the caves themselves. Let's say that 3 divers are deep into the complex and the 4th dies. It could be a while before that 4th diver can be reinforced and called back in, once again making it crucial that squads stick together, take their time, and maintain good firing lanes and trigger discipline. Hammering down with a machine gun sounds all well and good until you splatter your squad mates because you tried to make General Brash envious of your strength. For those of you who are unable to grab a screenshot during today's video, check in the video description and pinned comments for a full list of all the flashlight and stagger force weapons in the game. Tomorrow's gonna forever change the way we do combat, and I know I speak for everyone when I say that we're all really looking forwards to that. Make sure to drop a comment about any of today's topics or Helldivers in general, and of course I will do my best to respond. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, we have different tiers and perk packages available. Just hit join on the channel homepage. Thanks again to all of our current channel members, and until the next one, this is 𝗲𝗲𝗶𝘀𝗃𝗃𝗁 signing off.